How to create hard light food and drink photography. What's up YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. On this channel we talk about everything to do with food and drink photography. So if that interests you, click subscribe down below. In this video I'm going to be talking about how to create some hard light food or drink photography. This is a really trendy way of photographing drinks and food at the moment, which is why I'm adding it into my summer drinks photography. If you sit in your comfort zone and photograph things with a really nice soft light, that is great, but I would recommend maybe taking the time to get one or two hard light photographs. It's good to have a nice variety in your portfolio, and it's quite fun to create something a little bit different. The most important thing to consider when trying to get some hard light photos is, without sounding too obvious, you're going to need some hard light. If you're using artificial light like I do, you're going to want a hard reflector like this one I prepared earlier, or just the bare bulb, so without having one of these on at all. As you can see here, this has no layer of diffusion over it, so we want some light that's not being diffused. Unlike our trusty softbox here, where we've got this layer of diffusion, and on some of them you'll also have that layer of diffusion in the middle. The diffusion softens that light. Another thing to consider is the size of your light. This is nice and small, the bare bulb would be even smaller, so this is going to be a hard light. Our trusty softbox here is pretty large, and this is going to create a softer light. So the smaller the light source, the harder the light. And vice versa, the bigger the light source, the softer the light. If you want to use natural light to create your hard light photos, you're going to have to rely on the sun and the weather. Not great if you live in Britain like me. To create some hard light, you're going to want a cloudless sky and a window that has some direct sunlight. Although the sun is a very large light source, it's also really far away, which makes it quite small when you think about the whole sky. It looks small in the sky. If it was a cloudy day, however, the clouds will create that layer of diffusion like our softbox, and it also makes that light source a lot closer, so it's a lot larger. If you're looking at images and you want to understand if they're using hard or soft light, look at the shadows. The shadows is a big giveaway with hard and soft light photography. The hard light images is going to be a very defined line where that shadow starts. Images using softer light, there's going to be more of a gradient, so you're going to have a sort of mixture of light and dark between the shadow and the light areas. The shadows in hard light photos are really interesting, and that's one of the reasons why they're becoming a lot more trendy at the moment. Especially if you're photographing drinks and glasses. The shadows and reflections with glassware and drinks can create some really interesting patterns on your scene. I would recommend getting a few of your different glasses and having a look and seeing what different patterns they create when you shine the light through them. The more detail a glass has, the more patterns and interest it's going to give on your scene. This is not always what you want. Sometimes you might want something with a little bit less detail. Other things to consider with hard light photos is the height and angle of your light. Although this is important when you're using soft light as well, because we're working with much larger, stronger shadows, it's even more important with hard light. I created a little setup so I can show you exactly how changing the height and angle of the light changes the image. First of all, with the height, if we have the light lower down, we're going to get some much longer shadows. And if we have that height, the light really high, we're going to get some shorter shadows.
Watch the shadow change as I move the light upwards.
Using this, we can create some really funky scenes. Maybe you wanted to make an image look like it was taken in the evening. you're going to want some longer shadows because the sun would be lower in the sky. And the same if you wanted maybe a lunch scene, you're going to have that light a bit higher to create some shorter shadows. To control this with natural light, you're going to actually just have to take the image at different times of the day. To create those short shadows, you're going to want to be photographing between 12 and 2 p.m. and for those longer shadows, you're going to want to be doing it in the morning or in the evening. As for the angle of your light, this is going to change the direction of the shadow. This does happen with soft light as well, but if we're going for some longer, harsher shadows, it's a lot more important to understand where they're going to fall for the composition of the image. You're not going to want to have a long, harsh, dark shadow running right through one of your subjects. You're not going to be able to see it and it's going to be a bit distracting. If we have our light to the left, it's going to run through towards the right, and if we have our light to the right, it's going to run through towards the right. It's going to be directly opposite to wherever the light is. To change this using natural light, you're going to want to physically move yourself and your subject because unfortunately we can't move the sun around. So if you want to have the light coming from the left, you're going to need to make sure your subject is at the right of the window and vice versa. I definitely would recommend trying a few different things out when shooting hard light because small changes can make big differences to your image.
In this clip, I move the light further away from the drink, and as you can see, the further away the light is, the longer the shadow.
None of these examples are right or wrong, it just depends what you're looking to get from your image. I hope you guys decide to take some hard light photography, and if you do, I would love to see what you create. So tag me on Instagram at amphotographeruk, and I'll see you in next week's video where I am going to talk all about how I edited this hard light photo. See you next week. Bye guys!